My name is Arden Leora Vale, 33 years old. I was standing in the kitchen with a spoon in a jar of almond butter when my phone lit up with a post I didn't recognize as my life at first. A photo of me and Bennett from last month, sunny, filtered, the caption stamped across it in bold. Making my girl take a polygraph before the wedding. If she loves me and has nothing to hide, she'll have no problem proving it. Trust but verify, kings. Smart groom, no secrets. Comments were already stacking like applause. Fire emojis. Bro science wisdom. Preach. Protect yourself, Kine. Someone wrote, wish I'd done this before mine cheated. Another chimed in, normalize prenup and pre-poly. My stomach dropped so fast I went cold in my hands. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for 8 months, wedding in 4, deposits paid, venue booked, invitations designed and sitting in drafts while we finalized meal selections and seating drama. And now my fiancé was crowdsourcing trust with a lie detector to a chorus of strangers. Arden, we need to talk about this when you get home. 3 dots. Then his reply blinked onto the screen like a shrug. Bennett, about what? The test? Babe, it's just smart. My cousin did one with his fiancé, gave them peace of mind. Arden, you didn't ask me. You announced it publicly. Bennett, because I knew you'd overthink it. If you have nothing to hide, what's the problem? I stared at that sentence, the way it sounds like logic while trying to saw the leg off the chair you're sitting on. I thought of last Thursday night, his weekly happy hour, the boomerang clip of a toast with Chloe from his team leaning into the frame, the way he'd said her name casually, like a detail that didn't matter, the way he'd flinched when I'd asked how late he'd be. He wanted a polygraph. Fine. Great idea. Arden, you first. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, reappeared. I could see him pacing at Dax's apartment where he was doing whiskey and wedding planning with the guys. Planning here meaning comparing honeymoon resorts and camera bodies for his groomsmen content. Bennett, what? Arden, if we're doing this, we both do it. You want transparency? Let's be transparent. Bennett, that's ridiculous. I'm not the one who needs to prove anything. Arden, why not? If you have nothing to hide, what's the problem? He didn't respond for 20 minutes. Then, Bennett, we'll talk when I get home. He came through the door at 11:07 p.m., defensive already, as if it were a warm-up drill. I can't believe you're making this about me, he said, dropping keys into the bowl I bought at a craft fair he'd called Grandma Chic. No, I said evenly. You made it public without asking me. If we're doing polygraphs, we're both doing polygraphs. Equal transparency. That's not fair. I suggested it. And I agreed, with the condition that you go first. Lead by example. His face flushed the color he gets when he's benched in rec league. This is typical controlling behavior, Arden. I'm trying to protect our marriage, and you're turning it into a power play. I'm matching your energy, Bennett. You want tests? We both test. I don't need to take one. Why not? Because I'm not the one with trust issues. I don't have trust issues, I said, and felt the absurdity of the sentence even as I said it to someone who'd just outsourced trust to a machine and an audience. Apparently you do, since you want me wired to a needle. So let's both do it and clear the air. He sputtered, ran a hand through his hair, grabbed his hoodie. I'm staying at Dax's. Maybe you'll be reasonable in the morning. After he left, pettiness tugged at my sleeve. Then practicality sat me down. I commented on his post with a calm he hadn't earned. Great idea, babe. Just scheduled appointments for both of us. You're up first. Lead by example. Then I actually scheduled them. It took 20 minutes to find a licensed examiner with decent reviews, retired law enforcement, corporate and private clients, downtown office with a desk plant. He watered himself in the photos. I booked 2 tests, 3 days apart. The card number felt like a line I was drawing as I typed it. $800 total, non-refundable. I sent Bennett the confirmation. His appointment, Saturday, 2:00 p.m. Mine, Tuesday, 2:00 p.m. I also submitted the questions, as neutral and standard as Google and the examiner's template could make them. Have you been sexually intimate with anyone else during our relationship? Have you had romantic feelings for someone else during our relationship? Have you lied to me about where you were or who you were with? Have you hidden any significant debts or financial obligations from me? Is there anything you're currently hiding that could affect our marriage? I hit send, put my phone face down, and stared at the little bowl of lemons on the counter until the kitchen felt like a set and I was the only person who knew the script had changed. He called at 8:12 a.m. Thursday, voice already 2 octaves higher. You can't just schedule something like this without asking me. You literally announced you were making me take one without asking me, I said, stirring coffee I suddenly didn't want. I'm just following through on your idea. This is insane. I'm not taking a polygraph. Why not? You have nothing to hide, right? That's not the point. That is exactly the point. I'm canceling it. You can't, I said. Deposit's non-refundable, and if you cancel, I cancel mine. And then I comment on your very public post explaining that you refused the same test you demanded I take. Silence thickened the line. You're being a jerk, he said finally. I'm being fair. Saturday at 2, downtown. I'll drive us. He hung up without goodbye. By dinner, his mother Diana was calling me from a number saved as do not pick up, with the ringtone I reserved for smoke alarms. Arden, she said, the syllables brittle. Bennett is very upset. I know, I said. He doesn't want to take the polygraph he publicly demanded. Well, he didn't mean he had to take one, he meant you. If we're testing honesty and fidelity for a marriage, seems like we should both do it. That's called a standard. She sniffed. He's been nothing but faithful to you. You, on the other hand. Me, on the other hand, what? I asked, and let the question sit. She didn't answer it. So let's test and remove any doubt. She huffed like a catalog model in a winter coat and hung up. Saturday came with a gray sky and the kind of quiet that makes you notice what appliances sound like. We drove to the examiner's office in a silence that felt crowded. In the lobby, there were potted ferns and a water cooler and a poster about physiological responses that looked like a science fair consolation prize. Paul, the examiner, was mid-50s with kind eyes and a voice that could narrate a wildlife documentary. He explained the process, the control questions, the baseline breathing. He'd already reviewed my list, approved it, added a couple of standard controls about name and date. Bennett tried a joke. Paul didn't laugh. He'd heard all of them. Bennett went into the testing room. I stayed in the waiting area with a magazine about home renovations and a clock that clicked loud enough to be rude. The hum behind the door sounded like a refrigerator pacing. I made a list on the back of an envelope of caterer balance due dates and how much we'd lose if we canceled. I didn't know why I was doing the math yet. It just felt like prudence with a pen. 2 hours later, the door opened. Bennett emerged pale, then tried to scrub the color back into his face with a smile. Paul called me into his office and closed the door. Ms. Vale, he said, gentle but direct, I need to be straightforward. Your fiancé showed significant deceptive responses to multiple questions. Something inside me went very still, like a lake with a storm hovering just out of frame. Which ones? He slid the readouts across the desk. It was all waves and numbers to me, but he circled the spikes with a pen. The first question, sexual intimacy with others, clear deception indicators. The question about lying, about whereabouts, deception. The question about hiding something material, major deception indicators. Polygraphs aren't perfect, but these are consistent patterns. I nodded because words felt like lying to my face. I paid the balance. Bennett was crying in the waiting room. Let's go, I said. We were a block from the office when he started. These things aren't reliable. They're practically pseudoscience. I told the truth, and it's still... What truth? I asked, and my voice surprised me with how gentle it was, like patience and prophecy. Just tell me. He stared through the windshield. When he spoke, his voice cracked on the word twice. It was just twice, he said. And it was before we got engaged. The air conditioner felt suddenly too cold. What was twice, Bennett? He swallowed. Chloe. From work. It didn't mean anything. It was just physical. It was before I proposed. It doesn't count. When? I asked very quietly. A month before, he said. We'd been talking about moving in then. He'd sent me links to neighborhoods. We'd looked at floor plans like they were a language we were learning together. And he'd been sleeping with a coworker. In my head, the clock switched from time to cost. I closed my eyes and saw the bold font of his post superimposed on the road ahead. Trust but verify. He had asked for verification. He just didn't expect it to verify him. I'm canceling my test, I said, staring straight ahead. What? No, you still have to take it. That was the plan. There's no point, I said. The wedding is off. He sucked in a breath like a swimmer hitting cold water. You can't do this. Everything's planned. People are flying in, the venue, the dress. You should have thought of that before you cheated on me and crowdsourced our trust for likes. His hands tightened on the wheel. This is your fault for pushing it. I almost laughed. Instead, I watched the light turn green and didn't tell him. I was already counting the refunds. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't shout. I watched the city pass in paneled reflections and felt something inside me click into place the way a lock does when the key finally stops pretending it doesn't fit. At home, Bennett trailed me down the hall like he was trying to catch the end of a sentence already spoken. "Arden, wait, let's be rational," he said, voice wobbling between wounded and salesman. "It was before we got engaged. It doesn't count." I set my purse on the entry table and turned to him. "You slept with Chloe twice and lied to me about where you were. You posted a polygraph to test my love. You pointed a crowd at my integrity to see if it cast a shadow." I held his gaze. "It counts." He rubbed the back of his neck like he could knead this into a lesser truth. "I chose you," he said, as if the word chose were a bandage that stuck to anything. "I know," I said, and was surprised to hear the calm in my voice. "And then you chose you again. Twice." He followed me into the office where a spreadsheet glowed like a lighthouse. Venue balance due in 12 days. Caterer final count due at 30 days. Photographer second payment due Friday. DJ deposit paid. Florist minimum met. I opened a new tab and started pulling contracts. The keyboard clicks sounded like a metronome finding tempo. "What are you doing?" he asked, as if he didn't know. "Seeing what we lose if we cancel." "You're not seriously breaking us over something that happened 3 years ago," he said. "You wouldn't even have known if you hadn't pushed the test." I stopped typing. "That sentence is a confession holding a knife, Bennett." He ran both hands through his hair until it stood up wrong. "We can fix this. Couples get past worse. We'll start counseling. We'll set boundaries. I'll block Chloe. You'll what?" I asked. "Undo the part where you made my body a referendum? Unpost the part where you trusted a needle more than my word?" He was quiet for 1 beat. 2. Then his jaw set. "Fine," he said. "Take your test Tuesday. Prove you're clean. Then we move on." "No," I said. "There's no moving on from this. The wedding is off. I'm canceling Tuesday." He stared at me as if I'd tossed him into cold water. "You can't do this. Everything's planned. My cousins booked flights. My mother—" "You did this," I said, and returned to the contracts. He left the room. I heard cabinet doors open, the freezer slam, silence. Then footsteps returning, sharper. He stood in the doorway again, eyes glassy with indignation he'd mistaken for grief. "This is your fault," he said quietly. "You backed me into a corner." I didn't answer. I was doing math. His mother arrived first. Diana swept in without knocking, all controlled perfume and polished disapproval. Michelle at her shoulder, like an exclamation point. They took the couch as if it were a dais. "Arden," Diana said, her voice a velvet rope, "we need to discuss this tantrum you're throwing." I closed my laptop. "It's not a tantrum, it's a boundary." "Beth, she started, then caught herself. "Bennett made a mistake years ago. You are going to upend your lives over something in the past?" "2 mistakes," I said. 2 different nights, a coworker, while we were planning a future. Michelle leaned forward, hands nodded. "Men cheat. Women forgive. It's called marriage." "Good to know what you plan to accept," I said, and watched her blink. "He chose you," Diana said. "He proposed. That means something." "It means Cole wasn't interested," I heard myself say, and realized I had borrowed the name from stories not mine. I corrected, steady. "It means Chloe wasn't interested in anything past convenience, and he liked the attention until the attention needed care." Bennett hovered near the hallway, pacing tracks into the rug. "Can we be practical?" he pleaded. "If you cancel now, we lose a fortune." I turned the laptop so they could all see the numbers I had already memorized. Venue deposit $8,500. Non-refundable. Caterer, $3,200, gone. Photographer, half back, half lost, $1,000. DJ, keeps $200. Altogether, around $13,000. Diana made a sound like a lid sealing. "And you expect my son to pay half that?" "No," I said. "I expect to pay the part that the contracts say I am responsible for. My name is on them. I booked them. I will absorb the cost of not marrying a man who cheated on me and then demanded I prove I hadn't cheated on him." Color rose in her cheeks. "You insolent girl. You post this truth all over the internet and ruin his reputation, and now you play martyr with money that could start a household?" I met her eyes. "His reputation is his. He posted first." Michelle stood, closing the distance between us until I could see the uneven paint line on her thumbnail. "You're petty and cruel," she hissed. "My brother deserves better." "Then he should go find it," I said, surprised at how gentle it came out. "Maybe Chloe is available." Bennett's expression crumpled. Low blow. "It was your choice," I said. "I am only naming it." Diana rose like a storm front. "If you insist on this," she said, "you will regret it for the rest of your life." "Every day I don't marry a liar is a day I won't regret," I said and stood. "This conversation is over." Diana's mouth formed a thin line. Michelle picked up a glass votive from the console, one I'd bought at a yard sale, and flung it toward the wall as if satisfying the urge to break something. Would unbreak this. It missed me by a foot and shattered, wax and glass kissing the paint. The sound felt mercifully final. "Leave," I said, "now." "This is his home too," Diana snapped. "No," I said. "The lease is in my name. He moved in with me. Bennett, you have until Sunday to remove your things. After that, anything left goes to storage and you can pay the fees." Bennett stared at me with a look I recognized from Rec League when a ref called a foul he didn't think he'd committed. He opened his mouth, closed it, nodded once like surrender was a language he'd never thought he'd need. They left in a storm of footsteps and perfume. I swept up the glass, slow and careful, because that's how you avoid bleeding later. Monday morning, I became an operator of the life I still wanted. I called the venue. The manager's voice was the kind that lives 2 inches above kind, trained to carry people over disappointment. "I'm sorry, Ms. Vale, the deposit is non-refundable at this stage." "I understand," I said. "Please release our date." The caterer confirmed their contract. The photographer refunded half and wrote, "Wishing you peace," in the memo line like a benediction. The DJ said, "Damn, people and their choices," and Venmo'd back everything, minus the deposit with a sad trombone emoji. The florist hadn't ordered yet. She returned my retainer with an extra note. "I've held back a white dahlia for you. Come pick it up when you're ready." I cried into the sink for 2 minutes for the first time since Saturday. Then I dried my face and sent a mass text to the guest list template I'd been revising for months. Wedding canceled. Relationship ended. No gifts necessary. Apologies for any travel changes. No explanation needed. Thank you for understanding. My cousin called within an hour. "Do you want me to say anything if people ask?" she asked softly. "Be tactful," I said. "But yes, he made it public first." She posted an anonymized story. Guy's fiancée demanded a polygraph. He insisted she take one first. She failed and admitted cheating. He canceled the wedding. Don't crowdsource trust and then lie to the machine. By evening, the comments section under Bennett's original post turned quiet, then brittle. He updated it with a caption that felt like a performance dressed in black. "Turns out some people can't handle accountability. Canceled our wedding because I asked for honesty. Bullet dodged." No mention of his test. No mention of Chloe. His audience did what audiences do when they only hear Act 1, took sides based on costume. By Tuesday, my phone lit with a number I didn't have from an area code that matched his office. "Arden?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes. This is Chloe," she said. And the name said out loud felt different. Like tasting a spice you've only smelled. "I heard about everything. I didn't know you were serious when it happened. He told me you were casual, that you were on a break and sorting things out. I wouldn't have—" She stopped. "That sounds like an excuse." "It is an excuse. I'm sorry." I let the silence sit. She filled it. "I have a boyfriend now," she said. "He doesn't know about back then. He thinks Bennett and I were just friends who occasionally text. We, actually, texted recently. He reached out to check on me when the post started circulating. I thought he was being kind. I see now he was building a story." I felt a twist in my chest that wasn't sympathy. It was the ache of recognizing a script. "Does your boyfriend know now?" I asked. A pause. "He will," she said. Then quieter. "I'm sorry again." When we hung up, I totaled the losses one more time, $13,000. It hurt like stepping on a shell in surf you thought would be safe. But the water still felt like water. I could still swim. By Wednesday, a letter appeared in my inbox from a lawyer whose website used words like integrity and vigorous. Bennett threatened to sue me for emotional distress and damage to reputation. My attorney, Amrita, who I picked because her reviews made people sound calmer just by typing her name, sent back a steel-wrapped paragraph. "Your client demanded a polygraph, failed to disclose his own infidelity, and published misleading statements online. Any action will be met with a counterclaim for defamation and discovery requests he will not enjoy." Bennett's Instagram went private by Thursday. He texted late that night. "Can we talk? Just us. No lawyers. Meet me at the cafe on the 3rd tomorrow at noon." Then a second message before I could reply. "Please." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred, then typed 3 words. 15 minutes. Public. When I put my phone down, the apartment hummed softly, the way homes do when the power is steady. I watered the plant by the window, the one I'd navigated around when I first moved the couch in, and Bennett said it ruined the lines. It was taller now, stretching toward light, reaching without apology. On the counter, the dahlia from the florist caught late sun and looked like something that refuses to wilt before it has to. I set my alarm. Tomorrow I would sit across from the man I almost married and listen to him try to build a bridge out of the wreckage he'd set on fire. I would let him speak. I would tell the truth I had already decided on in a voice that sounded like mine. And then I would go back to the life I was keeping. The cafe smelled like burnt sugar and cinnamon when I walked in. Bennett was already there. Same booth we used to share on Sunday mornings. Same nervous tapping of his thumb against his coffee cup. For a second, I almost pitied him. Almost. "Thanks for coming," he said quickly, standing halfway, then thinking better of it. "I didn't know if you would." "I said 15 minutes, I reminded him, sliding into the seat across from him. "You've got 14 now." He tried to smile. "You always were the timekeeper." I looked at him, tired, rumpled, but still trying to perform the version of himself that used to work on people. "You didn't ask me here to reminisce. Say what you need to say." He exhaled hard, rubbing his hands together. I need you to stop. The posts, the gossip, the stories. Everyone's talking about me like I'm some monster. My job's been awful. My family's furious. You made this public." I tilted my head. "No, you did." His brow furrowed. "You told your cousin." "You mean after you publicly announced a polygraph on Instagram?" I asked. "After you tried to brand my loyalty for clicks? After you lied, cheated, then posted about accountability?" "Yeah, Bennett. That's not me making it public. That's me not letting you rewrite the script." He flinched like the word script landed somewhere he didn't expect. "It wasn't supposed to go that way." "It never is," I said quietly. He stared at his coffee for a long beat, voice softening. "The apartment feels empty without you. It's quiet. Too quiet. I keep expecting you to walk in, complain about my socks, talk about your work, ask me what I want for dinner. It's stupid, but—" "It's not stupid," I interrupted. "It's just late." His eyes lifted. "I messed up. I know that. But we had something good, didn't we? I thought we could find our way back." "We had something real," I said, "until you decided real wasn't enough." He leaned forward. "So that's it? No forgiveness? No second chance?" I sipped my coffee. "Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I can forgive you and still never let you near me again." He frowned. "So you do forgive me?" "I forgive myself," I said, setting the cup down, "for ignoring all the small ways you taught me I couldn't trust you. Long before Chloe, long before that stupid post." He blinked. "What does that even mean?" "It means I saw it coming. The lies hidden in your jokes. The deflection when I asked about your late nights. The way you'd call me paranoid just to make sure I stopped asking questions." He slumped, defeated. "I really loved you, Arden." I believed him in a way. But love that comes at the expense of someone else's sanity isn't love. It's ownership dressed as affection. "Then let that be enough," I said. "Let it end there." He didn't answer. His hands shook slightly. "You're different now." "No," I said softly. "I'm finally the same person I've always been, just without the noise." When I stood to leave, he reached out instinctively, like touch could fix what truth had broken. "Please, just wait." I stepped back. "You had every chance, Bennett. Every chance before that machine, before Chloe, before you made trust into a public stunt. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done." He dropped his hand. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Grow up," I said. "Start there." Then I walked away. 2 weeks passed before the next ripple hit. My phone buzzed during lunch. A message from Chloe. He reached out to me again. Said you met, said you were emotional. He's trying to play both sides. I told him to lose my number. Also, my boyfriend found the old messages. He's gone. I guess we both lost the same person, just in different ways. I stared at it, unsure whether to feel satisfaction or sadness. Maybe both. Later that night, a legal envelope slid under my apartment door. The same apartment Bennett once said had too many books for one person. Inside was a letter from his lawyer. Intent to sue for defamation and emotional distress. I almost laughed. Of course that would be his next performance. I sent it straight to Amrita, my attorney. She replied an hour later. Already drafting response. Counterclaim ready. Discovery will include his failed test, his posts, and the affair timeline. This will go away faster than it arrived. She was right. It disappeared within a week. Bennett's Instagram went private. His mother, Diana, posted a passive-aggressive quote about bitter people who can't move on. Michelle commented a heart. It would have been funny if it wasn't so predictable. I didn't reply. I didn't even screenshot it. I was done collecting evidence. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. The florist, who'd saved a single white dahlia for me, texted that it was blooming. I picked it up after work. She wrapped it in brown paper and said, "You're stronger than the story they tried to write for you." I didn't correct her, because maybe I was. The following Friday, a message popped up from an unfamiliar number. "Hey, it's Julian from the corporate mixer last month. You left early before I could thank you for the conversation. Coffee sometime? No polygraphs required." I laughed out loud. The first real unguarded laugh in months. I typed back, "Coffee sounds nice." 3 months later, I ran into Diana at the grocery store, of course. She looked me up and down, saw I wasn't broken, and frowned like it offended her. "Bennett's doing better," she said stiffly. "He's back at his parents', working part-time. Therapy too. I suppose we all heal differently." "I'm glad to hear that," I said. "You don't seem regretful," she said, narrowing her eyes. "I'm not," I replied simply. "Regret implies I made a mistake." She bristled. "You humiliated him." "No," I said softly. "He humiliated himself. I just stopped covering the noise." Her jaw clenched, but she didn't respond. She turned to leave, but I added, "Tell him thank you, though. The whole thing taught me what real love should not feel like." I didn't look back as she walked away. That night, I met Julian for coffee. He was kind in the way quiet people are, not loud with affection, just consistent with attention. Halfway through the conversation, he said, "You seem peaceful." "I am," I said, surprised at how true it felt. He smiled. "Someone must have really hurt you." "Yeah," I said, "but he also set me free." Weeks later, an email from the examiner, Paul, landed in my inbox. A courtesy copy of the finalized polygraph report. I hadn't asked for it, but he'd noted, "Just for your records." I scanned the pages, the waves and dips, the inked circles around Bennett's lies. It was cold, clinical, proof written in tremors. I deleted it after reading. I didn't need proof anymore. Because the truth was simple. When someone asks you to prove your honesty while hiding their own, they've already told you who they are. I didn't need a machine for that. 6 months later, Julian reached across a cafe table and took my hand. "So," he said, "are you ever going to tell me how you ended up so calm after all that chaos?" I smiled. "A machine told me the truth about the wrong person. That's all." He laughed softly. "I'm glad it did." I thought about Bennett for the first time in months. Not with anger, not even with sadness. Just gratitude that the truth had surfaced before I built my life around a lie. I met Julian's eyes. Me too. Because sometimes the most expensive lessons aren't about money. They're about peace. And peace, I've learned, is worth every non-refundable dollar.